All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is section 2.5 called the Catholic Reformation. You also see it referred to every now and again as the Counter-Reformation, but we're going to call it the Catholic Reformation because we can do that and no one's going to tell us otherwise. I also call it the Church Strikes Back because in this section we're going to look at what the Catholic Church is doing in the mid-16th century about all this Martin Luther, John Calvin business. Are they going to totally change the way the church looks like? Are they going to be buddy-buddy with the Lutheran church and the Calvinist churches? Or are they going to say, forget all you guys, we're going to still be the same thing? Or is it something completely different than that? I guess we'll find out. So, again, that's where we are. And this is going to mark a bit of a transition in this unit because after this section we're going to get into more of the political stuff going on rather than the religious issues in various places. So, let's go and see what we've got. Alright, first of all, we've got a dude named Pope Paul III, who has quite the epic mustache, I guess, but also beard action going on. And he is your pope around the year 1530 or so, 1540. He is the one that actually kicked Henry VIII out of the church. He is supported politically by our boy, Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor. And here's kind of the issue right here, is right this one. He's wanting to, I guess as he looks at the church, he wants to change the laws inside of the church. He does not want to create new ones. Again, that goes back to our buzzword, really, which is, there we go, awesome, is reformation. And that didn't work out, but there we go, reformation. You don't want a total change, okay? You're wanting to basically change it from the inside and make things better. So he's going to call this thing called the Council of Trent. And what this is going to be is a meeting of Catholic officials, bishops, cardinals, priests, to discuss what changes to make. And even though it sounds like an event, this thing is going to take place over the course of 18 years. So we're going to see it become something that takes quite a while for, I guess, the Catholics to really reform the church and to create a new Catholic church that is best. And I'm watching, okay, just spoiler alert, just what I'm doing. And I know if anybody out there listens to this podcast like 5 years from now, it's not going to make sense. But I'm watching the Titans and Cowboys right now, and it's no score. And the Cowboys just made an incredible defensive play on this Titans receiver, which probably is the most historically notable event that we'll talk about because the Cowboys don't play defense. But that's neither here nor there, and we're going to move on. This is basically a depiction of the Council of Trent. It is a terrible picture, and it's very blurry. But somewhere in here are a lot of Catholic officials who are coming together to talk about these changes that are needed to be made. And they're going to be talking and discussing and trying to make some significant changes. So they're having fun. Let's see, I think I have another one. Okay, yeah, here's another one. Here they all are down here, and then there's like angels who are watching them and praying for their good clarity and decision making. So that's very exciting. I guess. I don't know. They're like just chilling, just spying on them or something. Got all these other options that I can play with. I've got this marker over here, but I'm just going to see what else I can do. Let's see. What does this do? Oh. Is that picking up? If not, you're missing out. That's like a giant laser going across the screen. So that's really cool. Let's see what else I got. I can zoom in, I think. Oh, wow. Okay, that's going to make me sick. Let's see what else I can do. I don't trust that. And no, and I don't know what that does either. Okay, I'll move on. Okay, so probably the most important thing that you see here is really what the Council of Trent decides. What does the Catholic Church come to after such a long decision-making process? And if you notice, we're in the year 1563, and I totally like... There we go. 1563, which is basically 8 years after Augsburg, Peace of Augsburg, give you a little context. It's also the year 5 years after Mary dies, Mary the First of England. So that's where we are. And basically what they come to is very much a affirmation of a lot of principles that the church had before the Reformation. Scripture plus church tradition should be taught, so you don't go just with the Bible. You also, work with church traditions and teach those how they are over time. Salvation, good works plus faith, that continues, so good works is still an important aspect. And then a thing called the sacraments, which we haven't really spent a lot of time talking about. And that's probably your book goes more into that. But the sacraments are more valid, or they are valid. Lutheran churches take 2 of these sacraments, communion and baptism. The Catholic Church takes 7. This thing called transubstantiation, which is a crazy word. Lots of syllables in that word, but you can check that out in the book. It talks a lot more about that. And that's like the root of conflict even between, what's-his-face, Zwingli, my boy, and Martin Luther. And then here we go. Only the church can interpret the Bible. So again, it's not the job. It's not the responsibility of the individual. Tony Romo looks awful, by the way. This guy, let me tell you about him. Titans just sacking him all. Oh, sorry. Oh, it's like the sacking of Rome, but this is the sacking of Romo. That's awesome. Okay. Stop judging my jokes. So let's look at the changes. After we talked about only the church can interpret the Bible, so that means the individual has to go through the priest to kind of ascertain what the Bible is saying. The changes that the Council of Trent makes, and these are pretty big. Indulgences cannot be sold. Church offices cannot be sold. So that's simony. Simony is off the table. And then priests must lose concubines and secret marriages, really enforcing that higher authority. They also open an idea to build seminaries, more on that in a minute, so that priests can be taught. So basically, overall, the Catholic Church is still going to be very, very theologically, we're going to put the word conservative. Okay, so the Catholic Church is not going to make many changes. They're going to do some of the, I think, more obvious changes, ethical changes maybe to be made, but theologically speaking, they stay very much the same. Now, one of the things that does come out of the Council of Trent is this group, and this is kind of even a little bit before Trent, as you see the year 1540, but it's the spirit of the age as the Cowboys convert a first down to Jason Witten. Anyway, 1540, the Jesuits are found. It's also known as the Society of Jesus. They're led by a guy named Ignatius Loyola. So there is Ignatius right there. And they have 3 goals. They're going to build schools to teach Catholic Jesus. That's weird. Anyway, they're going to look to educate and to really spread the Catholic faith through education. So schools and seminaries are built. Seminaries to teach priests, by the way, how to read, which is always a good thing. And then they're also going to be out there to stop the evil Protestants. So wherever Protestantism is, they're going to seek to stop the spread of it. So say Northern Germany, say Netherlands, say even when it does appear in France and Spain and Italy for that matter. Additionally, really, Loyola, and it's kind of a cool story I won't get into, it's too long, but Loyola's story, he really comes from a military background, so he's going to consider the people that are the Jesuits soldiers for Christ. And it's a very militaristic idea. That may or may not be a good thing, who knows. But he brings discipline, really, to this religious order. And then the Jesuits are going to be behind in part of the Spanish and Italian Inquisitions. And it's really a primary reason why you don't see a Protestant movement form in Spain or Italy. Those will be highly Catholic places because they have high-quality control, basically. Everyone's going to act like a Catholic. You're going to do Catholic practices. That's the way it's going to be, or else. And that's what you see Spain and Italy, and to a lesser degree in Ireland, which is going to, be more relevant here later, but that's where we are. So the Jesuits, big group, important group to understand, led by Loyola, really bringing the education to the fight. Okay, so the question is, how successful was the Catholic Reformation? Well, overall, it was fairly successful. I think there's a statistic that says that over half of the people who defected, I think that's the right word. Yes. I was thinking of another word that sounds like that. Starts with a D, but that's not correct. Anyway, a lot of the people who left, I think around half of the people, are actually going to return to the Catholic Church. So you have to look at the success of this movement as something that has been very, very effective. And if you look at this map, it's going to show you after the Reformation where the success was. Primarily, you're looking in southern and eastern Germany. Over here toward this area called Austria and Hungary, which we'll talk about later, and also in Poland to a degree. You see a lot of this area go back to the Catholic Church. A large bit of France is going to remain Catholic. Now, they will have Huguenots, which are French Protestants, running around everywhere, and that's going to be the point of 2.6 is what happens there. But as I noted, Italy and Spain, Ireland, and then Southern and Eastern Europe are going to remain Catholic because of these efforts. Northern Europe is lost. It is going to go Protestant and really stay that way. England, as we've seen, has its own show going on. The Netherlands as well. Scotland with John Knox. They're going to be lost. And then you have over here the Ottoman Empire and Muslims down in the south and east. But the Catholic Reformation does do an effective job of keeping the Reformation out of Southern Europe and also in southwestern Europe with Spain. So just a little bit here about the effect of the Reformation on women, and there's a lot more we could go into this, but just to give you a little look at it, I think the book is going to cover it again. We've also, just a game update, we've had another sack of Romo. Charles V somewhere smiles. He must be a Titans fan. In any case, Protestant women. What did Martin Luther think? Because he's really our first significant Protestant. Luther, again, with the peasants as an example, really, believed that women should have spiritual equality with men, but not social. So, like democracy or voting or anything like that, any sort of property rights. He really didn't go that far to believe that way. He did see women as very important in terms of taking care of the family. So that traditional look, he did, in fact, get married. Which is significant because he's the first really significant religious figure to accept that, at least in a out front sense. You know, we know our Pope friends have done that before, but Luther's going to make the stand and say that, hey, celibacy should not extend to religious piety. He doesn't see that necessarily as a thing. Marriage should be more companionate and about love. So marriage is not a property thing. It's not a trophy wife thing. Marriage should be a companion relationship, which is, I think, very much of what we see today. Martin Luther was very much about that idea. He also put a big emphasis on the literacy for women. So to be able to teach, he supported that in a sense. And then lots of opportunities to serve in the church in a domestic way, but of course not being what's known as a nun or any sort of exclusive relationship because of that kind of Catholic ideology. So I think the big thing with Luther and women, and Protestants and women for that matter, is to is to have kind of a companionate role. But again, I think I misspoke earlier. They lost opportunities to serve in the church in that church leadership. I think you missed that a little bit there. As for Catholics, real quick, best way to keep Catholics strong, in many's opinion, was to train future generations. The big way of doing that was through children, which is where your Jesuit kind of education is going to come from. And you still continue to see Catholics who found these religious orders. A woman named Angela Merici founds the Ursuline Order of Nuns, and they worked with the needy in Italy, and they found schools. Teresa de Avila will reform monasteries and convents. So Catholic women are still very, very much present, having abilities to serve in areas. So you do see that idea coming as well and going on. Now, one way, and we'll talk more about this later, but one way that the Catholic Church is able to grab some people back into the church, as Dan Bailey hits a long field goal, points for my fantasy football team, shout out. Anyway, one way that they're able to bring people back into the church is through the use of art and sculpture and Baroque art. As they say, if it ain't Baroque, then it's not a 16th and 17th century artistic style. Anyway, Baroque art is going to be used to really bring people back on an emotional basis. A work of art, a work of sculpture that has so much emotion that you are compelled to enter some sort of religious experience by just looking at it. Okay, so for example, it seeks to overwhelm the viewer. It emphasizes emotion, grandeur, spaciousness. Again, the purpose is that the church is going to pay an artist to create a work of art that overwhelms them so much in a religious sense that they would want to make the decision to return to the Catholic Church. And this art style, Baroque, is going to really overlap with the end of the Renaissance. So I know some of you with art salesmen dealt with a piece of art that they might have said it was from the Baroque period, and that happens. Sometimes a piece of art can be considered a part of two periods. It just happens. Some Baroque legends, Bernini, Peter Paul Rubens, and I know a couple of you had Caravaggio. So those are really your significant Baroque artists. So let's look at a few examples. Look at the emotion. I mean, she knows that the arrow is about to go into the heart and hurt. Or whatever. I don't know what's going on. But you see, I believe that it's some sort of angel with the Virgin Mary. I don't want to make light of these sculptures. But you do see the emotion being brought forth here. Once again, here's Christ, I believe, being attached to the cross, being whipped. You see kind of the emotion there. Baroque art, also, you'll see a lot of very physical art in terms of the bodies are very defined. And it's been described as fleshy before, but you do see, again, the emotion. Another example here, and again, it's just to show the angle, again, of the church was to create such an emotion of the people that they would be just overwhelmed with with the goings on. And you see this also with architecture, because you see a church, a Catholic church here. I mean, it's just like, dang. You walk in and it's just physically impressive, just the cathedral that you're walking in. I got the chance this summer to go to a cathedral in Koblenz, Germany, and also Notre Dame in Paris. And just the space, like it's like you are at the entrance of heaven, which would be like the ceiling of the structure, so high and so grand that it does create that reaction inside of you of just you're a part of something greater. Another example, so this very well could be described as Baroque architecture. Now, what Protestants start to do is they start to take all of this stuff and take it away from the worship environment, because the argument, this is key, so make sure you understand, the argument that's made is that crap, my brain farted. It smells. Okay, I'm back. Okay, fart over, brain fart has finished. The argument is that the Protestant church will take away these great decorations, because they argue, these pastors, idealists and whatever, that the art then becomes what you're worshiping. The icons, okay, the pictures of Christ, the crosses, the beautiful, majestic decoration. You're worshiping that. You're not focusing on what's really important. So you'll see a lot of Protestant churches, Calvinist churches specifically, that are very bare. They're very simply decorated. They might have one cross, but that's it. Wooden pews, no decorations, no air conditioning, no Wi-Fi or anything like that. It's going to be really simple, so that when you're worshiping, you're focusing on Christ and what you're there. And again, that is a complete difference from the Catholic Church's idea, where you see these medieval cathedrals structured so that people will be in the presence of Christ by such a magnificent structure. And then we come to the end, really, the Reformation. This is really what's considered the end, is when this Catholic of Trent ends in 1563. I mean, what happens? Why is it important? What are the results? Really, 4 key things. One thing is that the unity of Western Christendom is shattered. Okay, so the idea that Western Christianity will be basically shattered, taken away, the dream of Charles V to be able to unite everything under a Catholic flag, that's done. What it does do, though, is rekindle religious enthusiasm for many people, including peasants. The fact that the Protestants come in and say, hey, you can have a daily relationship with God, that's empowering for the people. Whereas they had to go through a priest before and had to go through that kind of spiritual advisor relationship. But on the same token, Catholics become lots more gung-ho for their faith. Look at the Jesuits now going around and trying to teach and educate about the Bible. Abuses in the Catholic Church were remedied. Selling indulgences ends, selling church offices. You have much more of a, shall we say, a fair lifestyle from Catholic priests, in opposition to some others we talked about. And then finally, religious wars. And this is going to be the big legacy, at least short term. Religious wars are going to break out in Europe until the year 1648. And we're going to see a period of European history that is incredibly bloody, incredibly violent, all done in the name of religion, which may not be the best legacy for the Christian church. So we'll get into that here very soon with a little France action. But that is really the end of 2.5. So after you listen, make sure to do those Cornell notes. I will continue to enjoy my Sunday watching NFL and being remarkably sad about how bad my fantasy football teams are. I hope you enjoy your life for the next few days or until I see you again. And in the meantime, that's all I have to say. I don't know if I have a very special ending for you. But I did enjoy that sacking of Romo joke. So I hope you will continue to use that if you are a football fan. If not, it means nothing to you. But I will find some joke to apply to your interest as well. So I'm just talking now, so I will stop. Bye.